Okay. All right. Today we are in for a treat, and I'm so happy that you're here with us as the Computer Society of Kemathi. So I'll I'll first leave a few minutes to everyone who will share where you're joining us from. You can just say your name in the chat and where you're joining us from. It can be a school, your county. Just share it on the in-call messages. I'm waiting to see some. So if you're here, kindly introduce yourself in the in-call chat messages and then share where you're joining us from. I can see Wilson Mugendi is joining us from Dekot. I can see Francis from Kabarak University, that is Nakuru. I can see Immaculate joining us from Dekot again. I can see John joining us from Kirinyaga University. I can see Naf. I can see Lemayan joining us from Dekut. Valeria from Dekut. Naf also from Dekut. Francis from Dekut. Yes, I can see Valerie, Vanessa. I can see Eric, that is from Dekut. I also can see Gilbert Kongo and Faith, Michelle Dekut. Thank you, Alex Nyambura, joining us from Embu University. Again, thank you, Albert, joining us from Daraja University. I'm so excited. I can see Leon Nilsson, NNP. Not sure about that. I can see Clement. I can see Elvis from Karatina. I can see Cherry Legon from KCAU. I can see Centeyu from Dekut. I can see Clement from Dekut. I can see Genius from Dekut. That is Brian Oshira. So happy to have you. So you can continue. Chatting with us and suggesting where you're joining us from. My name is Peter Karaoke. I'm currently the Vice President for CSOK, and I'm also as excited as you are because today we are joined by a very renowned developer in our community, and I believe that most of us know him. So even if you haven't got a chance of maybe meeting him or talking with him, you probably have interacted with code that he has interacted with. So he's the speaker who is about to share with us today. He's a senior system engineer in Safaricom. He has contributed to the Daraja API. I know we have some developers here who have interacted with the platform itself for the API. He is also the technical product manager for GavaConnect. That's the government API platform, but I'll not share everything about him. I'll leave the rest to him to introduce. So if you have any questions, kindly hold. We will provide a chance for you to ask questions. He also collected questions that we shared with him from the registration form. So he's aware of us as students and also to any developer that asked any form of question that will be answered. So get ready as I welcome the man himself, that is Stephen Oyaro. So Stephen Oyaro, kindly you can unmute your mic and share with us what you have for us. So kindly help me in welcoming Stephen so you can share the clap emoji. Kindly. Thank you, Stephen. The stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Peter Umechocha. Can you hear me? Am
Yes, we
I
can hear
audible?
you. Sure,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay. All right. That's good. As you've all heard, my name is Stephen Oyaro. Currently, I lead a product called GavaConnect. That's the developer portal for government APIs. Yeah. So thank you, Peter, for the invitation. It's nice to see you all. It's like we are 50, 62. Yeah, I guess I'm famous. So Yeah. So thank you all for making time to join. And I'll just speak briefly on maybe my journey so that you can appreciate. As a student, I used to be motivated a lot when when you're trying to be a developer and you see all these brilliant people doing great things, you're tempted to feel like probably you're not good enough when you see other guys doing what they do. And then you hear maybe this one was in Harvard, this one went to Massachusetts University, this one had a first class, I kind of still happy. So all those things. So yeah, like you tend to try to make yourself feel less of who you are. So I'll just share anything and everything so that whichever one itashika, someone will be motivated in the end. So yeah, I'll just quickly just start from maybe my interests, where it began, where I first felt like I feel I want to work around computers. It was in back in should it's a lot of years, 15 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, around 20, not 15, should be more, around 2008. I remember when I was in Form 1 at the time. And then I first had, like, the first time I saw a computer, like, eye to eye, it was my father working on something in his office. And then he had been recently promoted, so he wasn't conversant with computers. So alikuwa anafunzwa Excel, anafunzwa Word, and then anafunzwa ArcGIS. He was an engineer, so alikuwa na do a lot of stuff around drawing and maps. Yeah, and then what usually fascinated me was nikiona akitumia mouse and then he clicks. So in my head, like, the point that he has clicked, like hiyo pixel ukichora plus hapo, that's exactly where you're supposed to click. And I saw, this man is a genius. How can someone know? Like, how can someone be that accurate? Hata angekuwa sniper, probably ange make it bad. Yeah, so that was in shortly after I completed my class 8, and then I went to high school. Now that's when I first touched a computer, and then, like, my curiosity was all out. Like any lesson like any time I could get a free time to pass by the lab. Mostly the computer labs ilikuwa allocated to the seniors, from 4s and 3s, people doing their projects. So at the time, I felt like anytime I passed by, na nikiona watu ndani, I just used to go inside to see what they're doing. And then slowly by slowly, just like maths for the people that it doesn't come naturally, I feel like just like mathematics back in high school, or maybe if you're still doing it in uni, whatever course you're undertaking, I felt like programming also, the more you're exposed to it, the more inakuzoea. So it's something that you need to really put in the hours, kushika. Although I wouldn't call it high school programming, it was like dragging and dropping those visual basic things. And then you end up with a result. It usually used to really fascinate me, especially when I see the computer teacher come and you're stuck somewhere. Yeah, alikuwa amewambia Monday calculator you've dragged na all those widgets na haziwork like they're supposed to, and then anawaandikia code na felt pen, and then you copy word for word, and then when you save and run it, like magic, it's working. Yeah, so I got fascinated with computers that way. I ended up picking computers as a subject, and then once I was done with it, I proceeded to uni to I did 2 courses in uni. Moja naweza sema in my defense I didn't have enough information. I quickly picked computer engineering nikijua nataka kufanya programming. And if there's anyone here who maybe has heard of the course or has a friend doing the course, it's heavily engineering. It's just slightly different from electrical engineering. So programming ni hapa na pale unless ujitume ufanye the stuff. So after my first year, that was in JQuat. And the other thing with me, I'm usually really stubborn. I don't know how to follow through with things that I don't like. So after my first year, I went back to my dad and told him the course I picked, I think I picked the wrong one. And then what made him mad was that after Form 4, I'd been a JAB at the time. I don't know what it's called now. At the time, it was called Joint Admission Board for admitting students to university. He meant like they had admitted me to Mombasa Polytechnic to do IT. That was sijui if terms have changed, but like the regular version where the government heavily is involved in paying your school fees. And then because I mentioned I want to do computer engineering, I was doing computer engineering under the parallel program in JKUAT, which is nearly like 10 times as expensive. So after nimemaliza the first year, having poured all that money, ilikuwa how much? I think like to 40K per year. And then I go back to him, I tell him, and it's not that at home to go that well off. He sacrificed a lot of things to have things done. Yeah. So after bringing that story, he wasn't amused. He wasn't amused, of course. And he insisted that I continue doing it and I wouldn't, or else he wouldn't be involved in whatever I wanted to do. Yeah. And I, I just didn't feel it. Nilishuku nikirudi, like I'll be just be failing. Yeah. So I talked to my brother and then he sort of understood and akaenda intercede on my behalf. And then we had my father back on board. And then I switched to the same course yenye ningelipiwa Mombasa Polytechnic. Now we're paying for it like 5 times in JKUAT now. So I ended up doing IT in JKUAT. And then still through my first year, second year, I wouldn't say I had any direction programming wise. And then when it got to my third, when you're supposed to go for attachment, that's when there was some program for, it used to be led by USAID, or is it called USAID? USAID. USAID. That the thing that Trump banned. Yeah. And then it was in partnership with some organization called HIGDA and what's the name of this other company? I can't remember. It's funny because I always wanted to work for them, but I can't recall the name of the organization. Oh, Palladium. Palladium. Yeah. So the three organizations were running what they called at the time a hackathon. I had no idea what a hackathon was. So a friend of mine who used to do computer science invited me to go just check out what they were doing because we had met at some event within the school still in JQuat. And then I expressed my interest in programming. And then once there was that function or hackathon, and then they invited me to go see what was going on. So I went, and then the the organizers introduced whatever they had come to show, and then they mentioned they had APIs with data for health, and they wanted people to innovate around them. Then the winning team would be chosen for a boot camp. Yeah, like outside of class, zile assignment yenye unaandika blocks of code, I had never like done any real world things. And then they split us into groups. I got into some group that had guys who knew what they were doing. And then the group won. And of course, we took credit and then we proceeded to do the boot camp. Now, coincidentally, the boot camp was to be done around the time that I was supposed to be going for my attachment. So I had requested the teacher in charge of, they're called lecturers, yeah, the lecturer in charge of the attachment program and IT in JQuat, if whatever bootcamp I would attend, if it would constitute to be counted as I went for attachment, because it was for nearly 5 weeks. An attachment is, I don't know your requirement, but it's usually 8 weeks. So yeah, but they accepted, and then I proceeded to it now. That's when I got my perspective really changed, because what you're taught in class barely has nothing to do with the things that are happening out here. And then after the attachment, I went back to school, and like my mindset had shifted. I was all talking programming, attending events, and then I met some classmates who like wale watu walikuwa nashika code naturally now. Mi siwezi sema I'm one of them. I put in the hours. Yeah, but for others it comes just naturally. So this guy used to like, we're taught about Android programming, and then anaitwa kwa not Blackboard, yeah, like the wall where you write, yeah. So and then they write code. Then the lecturer asks, like, we've been stuck here. Who knows what's wrong? And then this guy was getting it. Like, so I say, I need to stick by this guy. I think he is what I want to be. So I hung around him, and true to my word, he was what I wanted to be. Yeah. So he had a company that he was running with his brother, and he was my classmate. Yeah. We were at in our third year. Okay. Oh, sorry. I saw some comment. Yeah. In our third year at the time, so I volunteered to be doing stuff for him, like simple stuff, like transfer this to this database. But sasa si SQL scripts, ni you log into cPanel, alafu like it's purely an interface. Yeah, so you manipulate a database, you make changes, you see in a reflect kwa some portal he was working on. Alikuwa anatengenezea someone a blog. So I kept doing those things for free. Alafu akaona how interested I was, akanipatia proposition to be doing stuff with him. Atanifunza polepole, and then when he gets paid, ilikuwa on a project basis. And then when they get paid, ana nipatia kidogo za, ilikuwa na fancy nini siku hiyo za KDF, yeah. So after that tulimaliza uni back in 2018, alafu akanichukua fully to his company, although so like we were friends na tuko really close, and then of course you employed but sasa hizo project haziko because like you're building everything. It's not like the company has a product or a single solution that people subscribe to, that they are selling to people. So like wakati hakuna pesa unajuanga hakuna pesa na unaelewa. Yeah, so I remember uh, I think that was the toughest decision I've ever had to make career wise, because around that time I had sent out my CV to some lecturer who had asked for guys who were interested in Java programming, a Java programming job. And then I just sent out my CV, and it turns out that mine and the friend who had introduced me to the hackathon, the two of our CVs were picked, and then I was supposed now to quit this job. Like nilikuwa nimeona msee amenifanyia everything, like amenitrain, funza everything. He was patient with me. There are times sikuwa nashika kitu, he ends up doing the work na bado tukilipwa ananipatia. So nilikuwa emotional about it, although that later changes when you do. I think when you work enough time, kuna detachingi kabisa na an organization. When you need to make a decision inakwanga about you, but for a start kuna hiyo entanglement, alafu you feel like you're a part of the company. Yeah. And so it was really difficult. I had to make another classmate write a resignation letter for me. Nikampatia logins za Gmail yangu, nikamwambia nitumie hiyo email, hata asiniambia anatuma nini, but nikamwambia what I need to do. Yeah, alafu nikamwambia atume, na nikazima simu nikalala. Alafu nikiamka asubuhi sikupata any messages, but I found the guy had responded na ilikuwa really positive. Yeah, it was, I found it really mature of him. Na he was really excited. Mi nilikuwa nadhani it would break his world, but he was really excited for me na akaniwish all the best. And then I went to like my first employment, and sasa at least mwisho wa mwezi uko sure there's a salary. Yeah, the first employment ilikuwa in a company called Zeraki. I bet a number of us have interacted with this. They're in a lot of schools now. So tulikuwa tuna work on the systems za kutengeneza examination, like analysis for exams. And then we also had an e-learning platform. Everything is Zeraki something. Okay. So we had Zeraki Analytics, Zeraki Learning. And then later on, they came up with the thing Zeraki Finance around the time I was living there. Yeah. So at Zeraki, Pia, you remember the thing I'd mentioned to you about working with really brilliant people, because the CEO then and even now ni ex Harvard, alafu I think the co-founders kama wote walikuwa kwa Equity Wings to Fly program. Unajua those are guys like wanapitanga mtihani ni like ni questions tu ndo ziliisha, otherwise wangemaliza zote. So yeah, so like really brilliant people. Alafu out of it nilikuwa na mi natekingi as a challenge, naonanga nikiinteract na watu tu I need to level myself to kwenye wako. So up to there, we like there was a lot of learning, and then a lot of patience also from the developers that we found there. Like, they were teaching us almost everything from scratch. Then the other interesting thing for me, for all things, all jobs that I've done up till now, there's no job that I've gone to continue doing what I was doing before previously. Like naonanga tu opportunity naka exciting, and then I go, I don't want to say bullshit, but if you find the positive version of it, replace it with that. Yeah. So like, yeah, just convince people. Let me use convince. Convince people how you can do something, and then venye unaweza jituma. And I happen to be somewhat convincing, and I usually end up getting the work hata kama sina experience doing that particular thing. And then I've told you I usually put in the hours, minta kesha and like stalala. Everything I'll be watching on YouTube, ikienda Instagram, ikienda wapi, it will be all the content. Nakwanga obsessed when I want to learn something. Yeah. Something I found to be maybe good for me, but not so good niki advise watu, because if you ever come to me ukiniambia I have a cousin sijui kama ako hapa Nimrod, if you ever come to me uniambie you need maybe to do some course and you're paying for it, an online course, mi kushangaa sana. Like kuna ChatGPT, kuna YouTube, like there's all the content on the internet, kuna free code camp. So if you just dedicate yourself because the people that are making those tutorials, kwani wametoa wapi hiyo knowledge? It's just on the internet. So ukijituma enough, put in the hours, utapata that knowledge and all that information that you need somewhere on the internet. Yeah. So the same way how do I put it? For someone who supports, maybe if you're a football fan, yeah, I actually find it fascinating like someone knows everyone, kila mtu ako kwa bench, all the 11 guys. Me hadi mtu wa trend ndo namjuanga. Like I'm not a big sports fan myself, so naonanga that energy yenye una put into knowing something that you're really passionate about, you should put it to, maybe of course someone was telling me that passion is juice. Yeah, but if you're really passionate about what you want to do, na you really are aggressive at it, there's nothing that should stop you from achieving it. One way or the other, things will come your way too. Hata kama, for me, I can say what really helped me start pia ilikuwa free content from Andela. I don't know if Andela are still there. Yeah, at the time it was my dream job. Like nitoke shule niende Andela. I think walikuwa wanalipa how much? I think sijui 30k ama 40, like life changing. Kunipatia hiyo pesa sijui naweza fanya nini so nilikuwa nafikiria hivyo, alafu I'm starting to imagine the kind of bedsitter nitakaa nayo, unapangia hiyo pesa, nikaenda interview ma bootcamp nini. Guys are more brilliant, let me just say more brilliant, but I took it as a challenge. Alafu you see from that interaction, when you see someone is so good at something, nauliza like how do you do it, umelana aje, how did you get to know what you know, alafu anakupatia those tools. That's how I ended up convincing myself, if you just put in the hours, network with the right people, you usually end up just where those guys are. Might take a bit longer juu naturally for life kila mtu ako na speed yake na pace ya kulearn, na things happen at different times to different people. Yeah, so it may take a bit longer for some than others, but eventually you usually get there. The good thing about doing what you like, ni even when it's not really working out, unangi kama una waste time, you usually feel and see the progress as you move along. Na it's even if you hear a story on maybe guys who a random person, not, I'm sure if you Google maybe story Mbappe or any footballer, Formula One drivers, I wouldn't say that. Naonanga wanakwanga really privileged. Like what they belong to rich parents, but anyone who has really made it, ukisikianga story yao unaonanga like walikazana na people are not believing in them na finally they made it. Yeah, even musicians I'm sure ukisikia mtu story ya mtu kaa Calligraph atakwambia anafanya shows hapa, maybe alipwi, anajaribu hii, anafukuzwa, producer anamkataa, and then eventually they just make it, and then suddenly everyone wants you. So it's if you just put your time kwa na effort kwa what you really like, alafu pia kuwa honest with yourself. Kuna vitu zingine unapenda lakini hauwezani. Yeah, sometimes you just lack talent, like you kama me for example, like I really appreciate and I'm fascinated at people who dance. Nah, I've tried, like I just can't dance. So you just need to be honest with yourself, like yeah, I might like this, but it's just not in me. Yeah, so just find something that it comes naturally for you. Ndio uki amplify na ku put in a little hard work, you end up succeeding. So yeah, saizi niko wapi? I'm at Zeraki. Nilikaa Zeraki for nearly 2 years, learned a lot of things juu at Zeraki ilikuwa full stack, like you're doing everything, you're designing, you're dealing with the database, you're deploying, like everything and anything that a developer needs to do. Ulikuwa na on the process end to end, and then we didn't have a lot of developers at the time, so I learned a lot of stuff there. And then at around the time, yeah, COVID, I felt work got really intense for me. Alafu like the relationship started not working. Yeah, and then just on a random Sunday nilikuwa na a lot of backlog work to do, alafu nimeamka nataka kufanya kazi, nimefungua my laptop, and then like I just didn't have it in me. So najaribu kufanya, nasikia nimechoka, natoka naenda living room, narudi. I used to have a roommate at the time with whom tulikuwa tunawaka pamoja huko. Alafu I remember alikuwa tunashinda tukichochana, tutamake it siku moja tu, like vitu tumelana hapa tunaweza pata job ingine tulipe better. Yeah, so tunachochana, alafu yeye mostly ndo alikuwa anasema mimi nasikia nikaa nitaquit siku moja, nangoja tu nipate job poa. Yeah, alafu sasa nikamshock juu that random Sunday nilikuwa nafaa nifanye kazi, and I felt like haikuwa inafanyika. Nikaamka nikarudi kwa lapi, instead of doing my job nikatuma resignation letter. Yeah, and then of course si mnajua tabia zangu, nazima simu. Nikazima simu, and then later on in the evening nikikuja kuangalia nikapata a response ya like some guy we used to work with akiniambia, mwenye alikuwa nimemadress sasa, akiniuliza if I would want another role, if I would want to do something different for a bit. Yeah, but I felt like my head had already like left that space. Alafu later on I came to realize ni kama I needed psychological help, like hata kazi kwa shida, ni mimi tu nilikuwa nafaa kufundishwa kuorganize myself na planning, niache kuprocrastinate. I used to procrastinate a lot, and then work ikiwa overwhelming, it's no one's fault really, ni wewe ndio kujipanga, because you work with like 5 other people na hao wako sawa, kwani ni magic gani wanafanya? So yeah, it was a lesson that I picked. To date niliacha kuprocrastinate kabisa, siachangi kazi ya accumulate, but I felt it was too late for that, and in the process I felt like I had a fallout, na wanasemanga aje kwa divorce ati irreconcilable differences. Yeah, so yeah, I wasn't convinced, and then I left Ziraki, alafu nikajiambia nijipatie vacation ya 1 month, alafu after 1 month nianze kutafuta job ingine. Nikasema mi ni brilliant, mi siwezi kosa kazi, wenye nilikuwa nashikilia hii kampuni hapa. Sasa nikaenda break ya 1 month, like nilikuwa naendesha baiskeli like crazy. So I used to cycle like, I think every 3 days hivi I would do like 100 kilometers. I cycled to date. Yeah, so and it really helped me during hiyo period, and then afterwards nikafeel niko ready, yeah. So nikajiambia nirudi to interviewing now. Yeah, nikaanza kusoma soma haka rank pale Codility hapa, and then I started applying. So in my head I was aiming for company that sort of did something similar to Zeraki, and also ilikuwa time ya COVID, so remote was a thing, so nilikuwa na aim for opportunities za majuu. Yeah, so nilikuwa, so nakumbuka venye nilikuwa nasema nikipata ile 40k ya Andela, so hapa nilikuwa na imagine nikilipa na in euros ama dollars. Kasarani hawangenitambua, nilikuwa naishi Kasarani at the time. Yeah, so like I did the interviews, like a lot of them. When you jobless ndio unarealizingi kupata opportunity haitegemeangi kitu unajua, juu interviewing is a whole new skill pia. So yeah, that's how I learned venye nimewambia how to bullshit my way. So like you really have to convince people. Hawezi ambia watu, like you can't seem like you do not know. Like lazima tu really you believe in yourself, because no one will do it for you, alafu like uchoche tu, because ultimately almost anyone unaweza pick from that list yenye people had applied, almost literally anyone ukimchukua hata randomly, chances are anaweza fanya hiyo job, but unacheki like what needs to differentiate you sasa itakuwa how convincing you are hii stage ya interview. Yeah, so nikafanya hizo ma codility and everything, like I did a lot of them. Niligostiwa na watu LinkedIn, like people are reaching out, we want this and this person, your profile looks impressive, tuma CV, unatuma CV, amepotea, hadi ni uninstall LinkedIn, hadi sahii sina LinkedIn, naingianga na browse. I was scarred for life. Yeah, those recruiters, man. Yeah, so um yeah, nikaendelea na those interviews. I used to get really close for others, and then others not so much. Yeah, and in all that I never, I like not once I did cross me as apply Safaricom. Like I was applying everywhere and anywhere else except Safaricom. Juu in my head Safaricom is a telecommunication company, and I don't see myself fitting anywhere. And then there was this day, in fact sijawambia what triggered me to quitting. Ilikuwa of course a number of issues which at the time nilidhani ni historical injustices, but venye nimemention, after kukuwa honest with myself nikarealize I was the problem. Maybe 60%, so tuseme 60-40. Yeah, so there was a time nilikuwa somewhere along Thika Road in Juja City Mall, and then I see a guy with whom tulikuwa pamoja, JQuat. He was my classmate then. And then like of course now we're no longer in school, so nikamwona kwa kawash, nilikuwa nimeenda supermarket, and then nikamwona akitoka kwa kawash na gari, and then I called some other classmates hapo hivi, like sikujifront, like sikwangi mtu amushene hivo. Basa nikamcall nikamwambia, yo nimeona ule msee na kwani anafanya kazi kwa kawash. Yeah, alafu akaniambia hapana, huyo msee hiyo gari ni yake. What? Anafanya kazi wapi? Akaniambia usikia anafanya kazi safi. Hey, nataka kwenda huko. Mimi naendesha baiskeli hapa, killing myself for 100 kilometers. Yeah. So hiyo ilikuwa something else that iliniamsha, like seeing people wenye mlikuwa same level na saizi wako like way up. Yeah. I don't know if I've mentioned here before, but me believe like if mtu, like you've almost grown up together, you've gone to the same school ish, mlikuwa classmates, like mko tu almost a similar level. I usually take it as a challenge. Nikiona wameachieve kitu, najuanga hata mimi nikikimbiza nitapata. Yeah, so venye nikaona hivyo sana, nikamuuliza, nikaulizia namba ya huyo msee, umenilidhani anafanya kazi Kawash. Yeah, alafu akaniambia unatafuta opportunities gani? Nikamwambia alikuwa anafanya web full stack. Stack ilikuwa gani? Ilikuwa Java Enterprise Edition, Java EE na Angular JS. Then akaniambia safi, na transition to becoming a technology company now, na wana hire madev sana. Akaniambia niangalie tu website yao, ni apply for a role yenye nadhani inanisuit. So nika apply. Nilifanya interview ya safi mara 3. Hey, ya kwanza ilini humble. Yeah, ilikuwa mbaya, hata nikikumbuka saizi napata goosebumps. Yeah, like I came out with nothing, nilitoka hivyo. Yeah, so nikafanya ya kwanza ikaninyorosha, alafu nikaenda tena kuiva, alafu nikarudi ya pili, wakanyamaza, nikaona opportunity ingine, nika apply tena ya 3, and then it just so happened ile ya pili na ya 3 zote nikaitiwa interview. So what made me choose one over the other ni moja ilikuwa a permanent position, ingine ilikuwa a contract. Yeah, so nikachagua the permanent one, and that's how I ended up in Safaricom. Alafu I came in as an RPG engineer. An RPG engineer, basically you work on an API gateway, what the outside world knows as Daraja. What powers Daraja in the background is an API gateway owned by Google inaitwa RPG. So I'd mentioned to you like hakuna kazi nimefanya or for a role yenye nilikuwa najua previously. Yeah, so nikikuja hapo, yeah, I had to learn for nearly, they gave me a month. Yeah, that department has a really good structure where you do nothing, unapewa tu resources za learning and everything you need to learn, alafu you be shadowing the guys who are already there kuangalia nini wanafanya for a month, alafu after a month ndio unaanza kazi sasa. So yeah, I was learning the stuff, yeah, best practices, API engineering, like alafu I realized in Safaricom kuna like way stricter structures, while in Zeraki ungeamka tu saa saba mchana, you do a deployment, huku like ni communication like inaendanga almost ifikie president approve ndo mwende mchange line moja hapo kwa button ilikuwa inasoma log space in, nataka kutoa hiyo space unapitia processes mingi, sijui security, QA nini, like wako really thorough with their change process. So ilinifunza a lot about best practices. Na being out there, the thing I used to appreciate about Safaricom ilikuwa the fact that mi niliwapenda juu ya customer care. Funny enough, like I felt like nikicall Safaricom, like I always get listened to. So it was a company nilikuwa naipenda just from afar, not that I ever wanted to work with it, but wakati finally nikapata opportunity to work with it, like I was really excited juu nilikuwa naona tuko in line in terms of I remember kwanza the response from the HR person who had first reached out akiniambia nimepata the job, and I remember the footer huko sign out alikuwa ameandika notoriously custom obsessed. Like that really spoke to me. Like I usually like building products zenye ziko customer focused, because I usually see like if you're building something for someone, you might as well involve them. Yeah. So that's how I ended up here. And okay, I didn't mention like the break between Zeraki and Safaricom was, nilikuwa nimesema nitatake 1 month alafu nirudi juu mi ni mnoma. It took me 5 months hadi savings zilikuwa zimeanza kuisha. It took me 5 months alafu ndio nikapata hiyo job. And I remember towards the end hadi some the guy I used to live with whom tulikuwa tunafanya kazi, alafu some other colleague wa Zeraki pia, like walikuwa, unajua wakati watu wanaona wanateseka lakini wewe huoni, wanaona tu uko sawa. Yeah, they had volunteered hadi kuni support financially hadi nipate job. Yeah, like sikuwa naona shida by the until some cousin of mine would visit me. I remember ni visit na girlfriend yake, and then later on wakaniita sijui tuende wapi tutembee, alafu wakaenda wakanifanyia shopping. Ndo nikarealize oh, fridge yangu ilikuwa empty. Yeah, so like I really appreciated how those guys had come through for me. Alafu so ikifika hapo time nimepata offer, yeah, nikajiambia hii pesa ya Zeraki haiwezi kutana na Safaricom. Nikachukua all the savings zenye ilikuwa imebaki mimi hadi Mombasa. Kienda Mombasa sijui 2 weeks. Yeah, nikakaa huko, pesa ikaisha, nikarudi, nilingoja ibaki fair. Yeah, and then came back to Nairobi to like start that new role. Yeah, so that's how nikaanza kazi in RPG as an RPG engineer within Safaricom. And then as an API engineer, given that nilikuwa, I've told you RPG ni basically Daraja, yeah? But to the outside ni Daraja, then internally we know it as RPG because it exposes a lot of internal APIs. Yeah, so it's basically an API gateway. Unaweza Google, if you're not familiar with the API gateways, you can just Google what they do. Now, it's while we call it API development, it might not be what you know. because when I say that, probably if I'd had the word API development ama API engineering, ningeimagine kutengeneza endpoints, like hard coding everything. But when it comes to RPG, ni more of API governance. Those services already exist, so you sort of make the rules on how frequently that service will be hit, how many requests an app should be allowed to send per or an app or a user should be allowed to send, maybe per second or per given period, per month, per minute. And then they have things like for APIs that you need to pay for, how you monetize them. Like, it does all those things. Like, it's really robust. Also, for I'd seen a question around stability and best practices. Like, RPG have almost done everything for you. So what you need to just do ni kufuata best practices, na the documentation inakwanga really clear on what you need to do when. So that's how nilienda hapo. Alafu I'd mentioned I had a web background. So nikikuja to the RPG team, because Daraja belongs to RPG, the Daraja itself, the portal haikuwa inakuwa maintained within the team because hakuna mtu alikuwa a web developer. So when I came to the team, that's when it was recalled from some legendary developer aitwa Musa hapo. Alikuwa I'm saying legendary because alikuwa ameitengeneza single handedly Daraja 2.0 though. Saizi ni Daraja 3.0 wali launch last week. Yeah, so okay, they brought it back, and then I took over from him now, maintaining it, and then shortly afterwards, kukakuwa na restructuring within Safaricom, and then they brought an entire team to be doing chenye nilikuwa nafanya, alafu akaleta hadi front-end developers. So I went, I was no longer maintaining like the portal itself. Ikabaki strictly on the RPG side, like for just configuring APIs here. And then after during that interaction, sipendangi kuboeka at work. That's one thing that usually makes me change roles when I feel I've maxed out na I'm no longer growing kwa position niko. So besides API configuration within RPG, ni kitu unaweza fanya maybe 1 year ish before you realize you know almost anything, like ile yenye unaandika code end to end, and then once you compile iko sawa. Like you just plug and play. So after around a year nilifeel nimefika almost to the max, but the good thing about RPG ni we are also involved na monitoring. So wherever RPG runs, the servers, the monitoring tools, if anything, maybe in the middle of the night, maybe some APIs in Daraja are not working, and that week will umekuwa tasked to be on call. Like unaweza pigiwa hata saa 7 saa 9 usiku kuamka to do stuff, and then ilikuwa nimekuzanga na new challenges all the time, so that kept me there longer. And then besides monitoring, I also got another role as the developer engagement lead, for like where we used to go to events, universities, just spreading the Raja gospel. Yeah, so ilini keep busy for a while, and then while still there doing the developer engagement things with the Raja, that's when the opportunity came for GavaConnect. No? So GavaConnect basically ni kama Daraja. It's only that it leads to different APIs in other organizations, and it also does not belong to Safaricom. It belongs to government. Safaricom was a partner contracted to implement it. So basically, we usually build it and ship it to government. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. Juu kwenye nimefika niko hapo saizi, and sijui nini ingine inakuja. I hope it doesn't involve quitting because I'm a father now. Says you make random decisions like I used to before, but I hope I learned my lesson. Nitakuwa na make transitions when I have another role. Yeah, so I guess nimeongea sana. I'm saying na nikaa nimemaliza time ya questions. I didn't know I can talk for 40 minutes. So I can take any questions you might have selected, Peter, and then we can also just engage the audience and getting some other questions from them. Yeah.
Sure, Steve. And actually, sijui mbona nimeona as if tumetumia less time. I'm actually surprised also. You're someone that mtu hawezi boeka akiwa karibu na yeye. I'd want you as my boss. So the next time Safaricom is opening up for something, I'd really enjoy work.
People
So,
change. Maybe nacheka hapa ukikuja hapo.
okay. So
Yeah.
I think we'll first take questions from our wonderful audience. I can see we have increased to 96. So I think it's fair uh, when we have people
Yeah, sure,
ask
sure.
questions, maybe directly, and then we can have the written questions later, so that people may feel maybe wamejibiwa. So if you have any question, it can be API, it can be Steve's journey. As umeisikia, it's a very inspiring journey. I'm actually thinking of how we can extend this. But I think, yeah, so we'll open the room for anyone with any question. It can be his journey, it can be anything to do with API, it can be how to venture into Safaricom as a developer, into the government as a developer. Also, you've heard that he's working on a project to do with the government APIs. So feel free to raise your hand and we can go for questions now. Yes, our first question will be from Mark Gatere. Mark Gatere, you can unmute your mic and shoot.
Thank you so much, Peter. Kindly confirm I'm audible.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. That was super insightful and informative, Stephen. So my question is on regards to whether you can echo on the bit where you mentioned the skill gap between the school degree and like there's a place you say the self-taught way, and what would advise we as students, because I think we really emphasize on the school work, and then after the 4-year degree we find out that it's not what the industry is looking for, as you've mentioned, actually, as you've exactly mentioned. So kindly
Mhm.
emphasize on that, or echo on that bit.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So for I would say to some great extent, like if the system is not favoring you, it's your responsibility to like they cannot only provide enough, because even the platforms and the opportunities that I got to network and interact and then finally getting to know how things are working, it's because the university had allowed guys to come in to school and then talk to us regarding whatever is happening in the industry. So I would advise anyone to take seriously the situations where you find maybe say Oracle have been invited, maybe Google have been invited, Safaricom has come to university, because that's a chance you get to interact with people from the industry. And if as take for example me, maybe having come from wherever I come from in Western, like I don't know anyone who is an engineer or a software engineer for that matter. And I don't know anyone in the industry. Like, which other platform would you find these guys? It's only the people who would come into school and then you get it like slowly from there. So I'd say once those opportunities are presented, after that event is done, after you've been sitting all that time, they've been standing talking, I would say it's your responsibility to just pick on them to know what skill or what you need to learn on the outside, and also maybe more particular items you would ask them from a personal level, because life is like all rounded, doesn't things would inspire you from many angles. So I wouldn't I would say take networking seriously and attending those events, and like societies like this one now, for example, you'd find that while myself, I didn't have maybe someone in software engineering practice, maybe a classmate of mine, like it was in my case, has a brother who is doing the same thing. So it would be easier to know exactly what to do and exactly what to focus on, because school itself, peer, you cannot like write it off. It gives you a good opportunity to network and build on other skills that later on come out, communication and whatnot, that later on would be very important in like the industry to work. I don't know if that answers you, Mark.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. So what you mean is like we make use of the university as a platform, not only
Exactly.
focus on the curriculum that we're going through for the 4 years. We also do the extracurricular, like the events that are organized, we attend and all that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Sure, Steve. There's a question from Vanessa Modoni who is asking
Uh-huh.
uh, about the technicality, sorry, on the modern API engineering. So she's requesting for any resources that you'd suggest and the best practices for the same.
Okay. It would depend on exactly what you need to do and the stack, but of course there are overall principles that guide programming as a whole. So I used to learn a lot from Free Code Camp for whatever thing you might want to learn. They have it there written by experts for free. So like more specifically, API engineering is like really wide because like if you talk of a service and how it's accessed, you can go from maybe doing the microservice or even if it's a monolithic architecture, and then you'd go to like the network bit of it, the load balancers, the API gateway, rate limiting, and everything. So and also maybe the choice of database. There's a lot of things to consider. So I would recommend maybe just starting small and then growing your knowledge from there, because there's no one answer to it that I can speak on.
Sure. Another question from the chat, and maybe this borrows a lot from your journey. Now, where you mentioned your breakthrough, that was
Mhm.
your first attachment, where you saw that the real world projects really don't match with what you're studying in school. So, a question is being posed from Mark, who is asking, how was the compensation increase from Zeraki to Safaricom? Maybe to someone who yeah, akisikia some chums mentioned somewhere, that's how they can get maybe motivated to continue moving on.
That's a tricky question. Yeah. The difference was not that much. Yeah, but then again, I've told you, interviewing is a skill. But what I can advise for anyone also, later on as you interview, you usually realize that at first, when asked maybe your salary expectations, you usually, if you're starting out and the company is doing okay, chances are the like base zenye watakupatia utakuwa tu sawa nayo, and then you get in there you realize you're doing the same work na mtu mwenye analipa like three times ama four times, na that guy usually comes to ask you questions. Yeah, so like you need to do your research in that regard, alafu like hakuna an absurd figure. These companies have money and they're paying people to work for them, and if you know what you're bringing to the table, like cheza hiyo game. Ukiulizwa unataka ngapi, uliza wewe uko na ngapi, ni kama mnabaki. Yeah, but yeah, the money is decent. I wouldn't say I'm suffering.
Sure. I think that's well answered. So there are some other three questions. And before we go to the three questions in the in-call messages, I'll open for one question. That's a live question.
Okay.
So if you have a live question for a speaker, kindly raise your hand and go for it. Sure. Margaret has another question. I don't know if I give it to Mark or maybe, is there anyone else before I give it to Mark? Eunice Kenodia. Kindly, Mark, forgive me for that. I'll come back to you shortly. So let's have Eunice Kenodia, who will ask a question, and then we'll handle the questions in the in-call messages.
Yeah, I think mine would just be simple. Your presentation was wonderful and awesome. First, Stephen, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Maybe in your journey, is there something that you feel you would have done differently to get to where you are, or maybe a few mistakes that you have made that you can advise us to maybe not make in our journey, or lessons that you've learned along the way that you feel maybe you'd be
Okay.
farther than you are if you hadn't?
Oh yeah, I'd definitely be further if I'd taken these events seriously from the onset. So nikiwa first year, I told you it started nikiwa third. I think nikiwa first year, probably like background yangu saizi ingekuwa na snow. Not that that is a measure of success, but I feel like I should have started engaging with the societies now, just networking sooner. Yeah, and maybe as anything I would advise anyone is take advantage of maybe people you work with, people interact with, people you study with, like especially the ones who you find to have maybe skills, the ones who impress you skill wise. I'm avoiding to say smarter than you because smart is relative. But if you feel like someone is doing something that really intrigues you, and you feel like you want to be like them, I believe in like show me who you hang around with, and I'll tell you where you're going. I don't know if that answers you.
Yeah, that covers it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. So I think in that regard, hope Joanne's question was answered with the same. So we'll skip hope Joanne's question. And before everything else, Steve mentioned that he has a cousin, and I can see that himself ameraise Kono. So I'll give it to Misiani Nimrod to ask his cousin a question. Maybe Misiani, you can also introduce yourself. Then we'll head over to Mark. I'm afraid that we are running out of time, so we'll have more questions packaged for Steve, and I'll share them with him so that we can share later with the Luma link that you registered with. So, Misiani Nimrod, kindly go for it.
Choma. So, hi everyone, and hi Steve. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. So, I'm Nimrod Moranga Misiani. Yeah, I can say that for now. So, Steve, I wanted to ask you a question. So, like, I really admire like how you've built and used your network through the events. You've attended another spaces where you met people. So, I wanted to know, like, could you share with us how you managed to maximize those networking opportunities? Like, for example, how you approached people, maintained the connections, and turned them into real value in your career. And based on your experience, like, what will you advise someone like me to start doing now to build and fully use my own network effectively? Thank you.
All right. Peter, sijui mbona ulipatia Nimrod opportunity angeulizia hii kwa family gathering, but I'll answer it anyway. Yeah, so regarding networking, mi wana networking inakwanga you need to know what you want first from someone for them to like help you. You need to be like really deliberate na know exactly what you need from a person, for example, for for them to be of use to you. I'll give an example of where maybe there's this influencer, I can't remember their name. Simpendangi, like nikimwona TikTok wana jam. John anaongeanga about very unrealistic things. I don't go to an event, do what? You take 50 contacts. Like I don't think it works that way, yeah. So for me, I usually find that see, networking is not something that you force because the people who you want maybe to network with are humans too. Now, relationships are not forced. So while maybe you might admire someone, it's not always that you can see them somewhere and then reach out because maybe walking in down the streets of Nairobi from time to time, I've seen maybe celebrities, actors that I admire, whose work I like, but like I just can't walk up to them. You want be like Santa wambia nini anyway. Yeah, like at least nitarudi maybe later niambie rafiki yangu, oh niliona Abel Mutua mahali, like yeah, but you can't force those relationships. But in the instances where you know exactly what you need to accomplish, you'll ask a very direct question and then you'll get a direct answer from them. And then also if you um again, if you know what you want, present the questions to them, they can give you overall guidance. I'd mentioned people are human, so you might find you admire someone so much, and then like on a personal basis, you interact with them, you realize like, what's the word that comes to my head? Siwezi sema, but you realize they're not nice people. Yeah. So so you find you need to I cut across everyone, like everything that you need to do is just networking. You need to network deliberately na ukwe mjanja about it. Does that answer you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. I think you're
Alright.
moving on well. And I'm actually
So Peter, I
very
can
excited.
spare 10 more minutes, so no pressure. Kama there's anyone with a question. Of course,
Sure.
kama nyinyi mko available.
Sure.
Sijui
So
ka
I think
students wanapanga busy.
so. I think I'll read you 2 questions.
Mhm.
And one is, what do you think of AI and cybersecurity in Kenya? And the next question is, what do you mostly attribute your success to?
Okay. So my opinion on AI and cybersecurity in Kenya. Cybersecurity is decent depending on the organizations. I feel like the awareness is growing. Also, I like the work that what's his name, Bright, and the organization are doing with the courses and everything they're doing to train young people and people who are intrigued and want to be cybersecurity experts positively. I like the work they're doing around it. So I feel like it's a field that is growing rapidly in Kenya and would have a lot of opportunities in the future. And about AI, this might be controversial, but I feel like AI, I wouldn't, I don't know if the person wants to know from a prompt engineering perspective. I'm a like deep dive, like AI, the real stuff, because the real stuff me on for anyone to be involved in like low level development of maybe like agents and everything that maybe like training models and everything like low level for AI. It usually takes a lot of studying. You'd find a lot of old people there now, like legendary computer scientists doing that. Love for Kenya, I'm not sure if the education level has gotten to that level for guys to be able to do it on the like on that low level. So I'd say maybe in terms of adoption and companies using whatever models already exist, it's doing well. But in terms of maybe us being capable of doing it ourselves and coming up with our own stuff, that in that regard, in my own opinion, not Safaricom's, I'd say we have a long way to go.
Sure. And the next question was, what do you attribute your success to?
Oh, my success. Am I successful? Yeah. I'd say community, na curiosity, na fear of poverty. Yeah.
I love that bit. So before I handle the next 2 questions in the in-call messages,
Mhm.
I'll return it to Mark Gatere. And maybe to mention to you, Steve, Mark Gatere is a very a very established guy here in our school, because he's the one who came up with this platform. I think he has been one of the most proficient people in the field. He has been an intern at Microsoft, so I really also pay
No,
his flowers. So I think I'll give it to
I
him
know
too.
Mark. I've heard of Mark. I remember, was it this Mark that did some controversial thing?
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, I know
So
Mark.
I think Mark Gatere, kindly.
Okay, I'm not sure whether it's this mark, but my question is, you
I'm sure
mentioned
it was
something.
you.
My question is on regards to where you mentioned about getting into each. I think each transition that you had, you got into something new, like from the first company to Zaraki, from Zaraki to Safaricom, something new. So how was your transition? Like, what would you recommend us to have in terms of the fundamentals? Because I think there's something that you can advise. There's something that you had in that when you got into something new, you didn't like find it quite hard to like transition, or your transition to a new product or a new tool, it wasn't that difficult. So what would you recommend? Because I think everything we might need to do in different companies might be new, but there are some things that we need to have then that you heard that you can advise us so that we can it's easier in terms of the transition. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's a very good question. I always advise people to grasp the fundamentals, because it's like which examples can I give for these counter tracks? I bet some of them have the same exact chassis that some like Nganyas around town have. Yeah. So you find that I'm making that reference because for programming, you find that like fundamentally almost anything is the same, like from this language to that language. So once you've grasped the fundamentals, it cuts across the technologies that you're supposed to be using. Meaning the stuff that you would need to be learning as you're transitioning would be just the syntax. Because if you have grasped the maybe how data structures work, if you've grasped how maybe um uh maybe segments of code, like maybe how to write efficient, how to use maybe loops efficiently, like how not to have maybe endless while loops. And once you've figured that in one language, you can transition to anything really. And then the other, in terms of transitioning, I'd say for me it usually comes almost naturally, because like after maybe what I call maxing out for a position that I am in, uh, miraculously something else usually just presents itself, and then I find myself ready for it and for the challenge. And then while it's not usually so different from what I used to do before, it's I think the question that you came up with is like how I'm able to do different things. So it's not like very different. Technically, you would find that it's almost similar. It's only that maybe these guys use a different stack from the other. And then in terms of look at my transition from Daraja to GavaConnect, for example, it's like the same like platform, only that I've stopped maybe doing API development on this side. Um, like making the decisions on how APIs are being developed on this other side. So you find like it's the change is not like breaking. It's a smooth change. So I'd advise for anyone to just learn the fundamentals and do not be language agnostic. Keep an open mind. Does that answer you, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Due to time, I'll take the last question that is asked on the in-call messages. So the question goes: what's your perspective on the role of APIs in cybersecurity?
Role of APIs in cybersecurity. Today, I'm trying to tie the two, because one appears to be protecting the other. Because cybersecurity basically is being aware of all the threats that would affect systems, and that would include the APIs. So I don't know if the question should have been the role of cybersecurity in APIs. Does the person want to change their mind? Am I just sticking to their guns? They are courageous enough to unmute.
Julie, I don't know if we have Julie in the call. I think.
Oh yeah, if they don't want to unmute, yeah. So I'll just flip the two, because okay, their relationship would be, as I've mentioned, cybersecurity is on top of maybe the APIs, because you need to always, as you develop APIs, make sure. There's a phrase I had in Safaricom, it was really interesting. It's they usually say like security can't wait, because a feature can wait. Like logic might be bad, maybe some 50 users might be logging in successfully, and then the next three don't. Like that's just logic. But for security, like you need to like prioritize what like security in terms of maybe API development, how APIs are accessed, how you store your keys, how maybe the layers that you have to your applications, those need to be picked very deliberately. And the decisions that if you don't take correctly can maybe bring a business down. You had seen, for example, how you had about the incident that Cloudflare had. I don't know if you read, any one of us read the explanation to what had happened. Like waliruka story ya hacking kabisa. Tulisema we were not hacked, ilikuwa bug. Hapo ndo for the first time developers admit ilikuwa feature, ilikuwa bug. Yeah, so like security, cyber security should always be prioritized, and it is the one. Yeah, I'm saying Julie. Sorry for the distraction. I'm saying Julie saying she's a pen tester. I don't know if you could unmute Julie. If that's okay with you. Okay. Yeah, I guess that would be my submission then. If there's no any other clarification on that particular question, Peter.
Sure, and that will mark the end of our session with you, Stephen. But kindly do not leave the call. We are to share more about CSOK. We have revamped the club, and we would love to onboard you with the new CSOK, the new look, and wish that you're the pioneer. So if you're an attendee, kindly do not leave. And to you, Steve, I think this has been one of the best sessions you've ever had, because you've really related with your story. That nothing comes on a silver platter. Your breakthrough from how you came from JQuat to Zeraki, now to Safaricom, later to a very senior engineer in Safaricom, now to working on an API that will be used by the government and obviously by all the developers in Kenya who wish to consume products within that ecosystem. So kindly help me in clapping for our wonderful speaker, that is Stephen Oyaro. Yes, sure. Thank you, Stephen. And I wish that this discussion does not end. So if you have any questions, kindly forward to the email that I was sending you the registration links, so that we may continue and further have this conversation ongoing. Stephen is well-rounded and will be more than happy to handle questions even off this session. So I'll give it back to you, Stephen, for your final submission. And yeah, and your best wishes for the developers in the call.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for everyone who made time to join, and it has been a privilege also just presenting to you and sharing my experiences. I hope you get to learn a thing or two from it. And if you would like to connect, I use the same names on LinkedIn. I'm highly responsive. Hata kama na access through browser. Yeah. So I hope someday I'll bring myself to reinstalling the application so that I continue seeing how people are succeeding and how they're happy announcing the stuff that's happening to them. Yeah. But I would like to encourage all of us, just remember to always put in the work, and nothing comes easy, especially for the average people. Most of us are average. If you, maybe you might have been told as a child that you're super brilliant and you're a genius. Yeah, but a majority of people are average people, and you need to work hard to be able to get something, because also how smart you are usually isn't enough. Like when you're unajituma and how you present yourself, how you sell yourself, because as a person, I've come to realize that as an individual, you're also a brand. So the perspective or perception that people have of you inatokanga na wewe tu. So you need to drive that na almost to a level enye if someone looks at you wanaona some god, kumbe you have your challenges, but that's none of your business. because of their business rather. Just deal with them alone. When you show up to where people judge you for how you appear, make sure they always look at you kama like the toughest toughest developer that ever lived. Yeah. So yeah, just keep at it, put in the hours. I can assure you it will work out in the end. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Sure, that was Steven Oyaro, a senior systems engineer in Safaricom and also a technical product manager at the government API platform, formerly known as the GavaConnect. So in the next session, I'll have our members coordinator, that is Dennis Wanjohi, who will share the new look about CSOK. We'll onboard you as the first pioneer. So kindly do not leave the call. We are about to share that with you. So thank you, Stephen, and it was nice having you. Welcome, Dennis.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Stephen, for your submission, like a fellow learned friend. That was a really open session. Someone really asked, kuna mtu really asked how is the compensation difference? Yani, like on a public domain, he asked how much the guy is earning. I think that was Mark. Mark, by the way, ulipata kazi KRA, utuambie to avoid. So I'm going to be taking you through the new look of CSOK, what you are doing at CSOK. Let me share my screen for a minute. If any of you has ever wondered, kama ushaitembea huko offices, what's it called? Computer lab. Sijui kama ushainote hizo computer was zimeandikwa KUC, zimebrandiwa na KUC and not Dekut. We will find that out in a moment. So I am Dennis Wanjohi. I am the members coordinator, the acting members coordinator for Computer Society of Kimathi. And in this slideshow, this is what you are going to go through right now. So, like when ilikuwa nauliza why those computer lab computers zimebrandiwa KUC and not Dekut. Kama unajua andika hapo kwa chat. So like to understand the history of CSOK, it is closely intertwined with the history of Dekut itself. So the reason why zimebrandiwa KUC is because when our university was first created, it was not a university. That was in 1972. Ilikuwa inaitwa Kimathi University College, and then in 2007 ikaitwa join JKUAT. It became a constituent of JKUAT. Then it became Kimathi University College of Technology, and in 2012, December 14th, that is when we became Dekut. And so CSOK, which was launched during the year of 2012, is about as old as Dekut itself. So what is CSOK? So we are the oldest computer club here in Kimathi. It was started in 2012, obviously by just some guys who came together, and in their brainstorming they thought, how about we come up with a club for. Am I still presenting? Okay, am I still presenting?
Yes.
Okay. So those guys, one of them is actually currently an AWS software engineer in South Africa. So they came together and thought of forming a club. So like, and then, well, after thinking about it, they formed the club. So that is the history of this club. And in its inception, the idea was just to, like, let's meet up, let's talk about tech, let's let's explore. But then afterwards, these huge companies started forming their own communities. We had GDSC, and then Microsoft came, and then Huawei. CSOK played an integral part in integrating those other clubs now, those other computer clubs now, into Kenadi. So you might be wondering, why CSOK, and we have GDSC, we have that one for Microsoft, we have Huawei. Why CSOK exactly? So the difference between CSOK and those other clubs, the primary difference is the sponsorship. See, like GDG on campus, GDSC is different thing, goals. GDG on campus is sponsored by Google. So there's not that much independence. There's not that much independence in what they can explore, the events that they can hold. CSOK, we don't have that. We are open to any event that might provide value to tech enthusiasts, basically in Dekut. And currently, our patron at the moment is Dr. Patrick Gekunda. I don't know if this is the right moment to give a moment to the other organizers to the other leads of CSOK to just say a moment, just say their name and their position and their cause, so that you can demystify. Ndomwamini sisi ni Wakemathi, you know. I don't know who is ready at the moment. Maybe Peter could facilitate that, could moderate that. Is Ruth? Okay, I'll just, Ruth is not there. That is our acting president. The speaker who was just here, the moderator, sorry, Peter Karaoke, that is our vice president. We have Arnold Motweri, we have Clement, and then there's Myra, Isaiah, and Benedict. I'm sorry, I've digressed for a moment. So that is what CSOK is. And why CSOK exists is basically, like the former speaker has alluded to, tech can be hard, more especially when you are alone. And we also need experience. For instance, like the things we study in class, they cannot be directly translated into the industry. I might be premature in this assumption because I'm just a second year, but like introduction to programming, we learned in C and we never even got to pointers, but my transcript says that I know C. So in this, through the activities of CSOK, the members will get now that real hands-on experience. Yeah, and that collaboration, as you know, currently the tech space is all about collaboration. You cannot build a meaningful software alone unless you are maybe Terry Davis. So that is why CSOK exists. Okay. So this is also the reason why CSOK exists. I don't think I really need to elaborate on this slide, because the fact that you are here already assess the fact that, you know, knowing how to code is basically kind of a superpower in this generation and in society at the moment. And, so some of the activities that we usually hold are hackathons. Sijui kama kuna wenye washaingia hackathons hapa, but I've interacted with some of you in hackathons. So basically a hackathon is an event where you come, you team up, and then you are given a real world solution or a theme, and then you solve it in teams, or mostly in teams. You solve it with your own unique solution. So basically you are being taught how what's it called? How to ideate, how to come up with an idea, how to build it, And if you win, you get cash prizes. And you see, the beauty of hackathons, especially at this level, is that you really don't have to be that competent in anything really. Like last year, there was this event, this hackathon that was it was organized by was it DeSailly, the Club for Machine Learning and AI. So in that event, they had said in the advertisement, they had said that you don't have to know machine learning. If you only know programming, you can come. So me, I don't know anything about machine learning, but I was teamed up in a group of 3, and then they asked my skill, and then they told me, weka tu hapo, tutakwambia tukikuhitaji. But hakuna kitu nilifanya the whole day. But from that event, nilipata kujua wase, by the Bridget, if you are here, God bless you. Kunifanya ni feel like I don't know anything, even though I didn't know. And also there was this other one around last month, Prompt BI. This one was also for anyone for any proficiency level. So this one was really special. It was a special kind of hackathon where you are first taught how to use the product before you are told to compete on how to use the product. So for the hackathons, we organize some of those, a lot of those through collaboration with other clubs also, not independently. So you should probably, the next time we have one, you should probably just join. And most of them actually have free food, just so you know. So these are the activities that we usually take. I'll start with number 2. That was today's activity. We usually hold these ones. We try to hold them as frequently as we can. Yeah, so in the professional stake, this one is where we find a professional like Steven, who was just here. They come and they just talk, you know, and it's usually fun. And you get to ask them how much they make. So it's usually very open. We have physical workshops. These ones are usually during the week, at the end of the day, mostly. During the week, we have Web3, cloud, and cybersecurity sessions that we usually hold. We also have Code Wars. It's usually on Thursdays online. It's like what's it called? You come and practice DSA together. Hiyo DSA yenye Steven alikuwa anasomea, yenye alikuwa anaiva during COVID. Yeah, you can come practice that same DSA on Thursday. We usually have a lot of workshops, so just we'll keep you posted on that. We also have the code and chapters, what's it called? Session. This one it started with the previous committee. It started kimchezo tu hivi. One of the classmates alikuwa anasoma a tech book, and then akauliza kwa group if anyone else anataka kusoma hiyo kitabu pamoja, and then they discuss, and then it became a whole session. We also hold those ones. We are preparing we are still in the process of selecting a book for the semester, but it is going to be up and running soon. And I've purposely deferred the elaboration of the first point to the end, because this is where we want to change. Like, this is one of the main plans. We want to have team goals together as a club. So in our usual spaces, if you have an idea, we can come and see how we can incorporate it into CSOK. The main vision of CSOK in this session, during this our period, is to incorporate other people's ideas. Basically, we want to hog ideas. So if you have any ideas of an event, feel free to contact any one of us. And so these are some of the past events that we at the end of each event we usually send photos. There's a professional photographer. Kwa hiyo ukuje uko umeoga, So kama unajiona hapo kuna watu hapo, yeah. So there's that, and these social media platforms, we are going to send to you all these links on is it Llama? Yeah, on that Llama post the meeting. So any questions? I think I'm done, by the way.
Thank you. And that was Dennis Wanjohi, our current members coordinator. So I think we have come to the end of the call. And before we leave, I think you can just chat with us on the in-call messages on what is your biggest takeaway from this session. So kindly, we can start sending messages, your biggest takeaway, so that we can share it with our speaker, so that even as he leaves the call, we can ascertain on what you have taken home today. So kindly, just chat with us, your biggest takeaway. Anyone, as you're leaving, kindly. Again, as we wait for your biggest takeaway, we will be sharing the recording link to today's call with you. So also you can wait for that. Sure, I can see Valerie with a very impactful takeaway that work on yourself. You're a brand as a person. That's brilliant. I can see Craig Ochieng saying that no loyalty to organization. So just work on yourself. Your skill will speak for you. I think that's what it echoes. I can see Vanessa Modhoni again, anasema attend events and network and make sure you understand the fundamentals. That's so important from you. Mark Gatere is saying join communities and network. That's so important. I'm seeing that we really took a lot from our speakers. Yes, you can also send your LinkedIn link so that we can connect as a community. As I just said, we should not live here as we left. Anyone else? Anyone else? I'd love to read like 5 more before we end the call. Put in the work, Transnight if you have to. That's from Arnold Motweri. That's so okay with you. That's okay. Again, I can see some social media platforms are being displayed on the screen now. So if you'll have to further this conversation, kindly join the CSOK community. We promise by the end of this year, this will be the biggest tech community you'll ever know. So kindly, you can also join us. Yes, I can see Kibeta Isaiah saying that we should learn systems programming if you want a real understanding of the underlying code. Someone is marketing Rust here. Sure. Lillian, who is our previous president, she's suggesting that she enjoyed the session, and a huge thanks for organizing this. Thank you. Magatere is echoing hapo kwa transnighting. I guess you have seen how Mark has always transnight. So I think this is from experience. Kamau Albert is saying follow your passions as interests change with time. That's okay. Lee sending their link to their LinkedIn. Clement Ndave is saying that we should be consistent. Someone is happy that trust was mentioned. Martin Kemani, your own brand. Thank you guys for making this possible. And I'd love to see you on the next session that we'll be having. We'll continue sending you emails to any updates that we'll be having from CSOK. Again, a huge thanks from my side and from CSOK. Thank you and have a good night.